Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechvalley.com. We have a very, very special guest with us, Robin Seletsky. She's a clarinetist, and you can see her clarinet there on her side with Klezmer music. And well, Robin, welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you.
And this is
so
a little
much.
something different, and you're from Oneonta.
I'm from
And
Oneonta.
you made the trip to Albany to
Yes.
be in our studio. Thank you. And I tell you, I heard you play, and I was floored, and I really am honored that you came here. You are so
thank you
talented.
so much. Thank
So
you.
we got something a little different. We had the head of the Albany Symphony Orchestra, David Allen Miller, here.
Yep.
But he didn't bring an instrument, and you did. So
Well, you want to bring him to baton? He
that one,
wave his baton in front of you over here. At least here we can hear
he
some
would
music.
hit me with it.
Listen, Robin, why did you settle in Oneonta? It's not your borough park. It's not your Jewish center of life of New York State.
I know. Well, I'm originally from New York City. I was raised in the Bronx until I was 11, and then we moved to Brooklyn. And I went to high school in the city. I went to New England Conservatory, and then I went to Juilliard. And after Juilliard, I was sort of at loose ends, and I was asked to move to Oneonta and participate in some of the musical groups there and teach as an adjunct at the two colleges there. And so I thought, okay, and I thought I would be there for maybe a year or 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
you never
actually,
left.
well, I did leave for a few years. I was in San Antonio for a few years, and then I moved back. But basically, it's been my home for a very long
That's
time.
the magnet. It has you coming. You know.
It's a wonderful community. It
Yeah?
really is.
Tell
It's
us about the
wonderful.
Jewish community in Oneonta.
The Jewish community is quite small,
Right.
but very active. There's a synagogue. I'm the music director at Temple Bethel. I have a little choir, and among other things, I like to do some music there.
What's what type of
It's conservative.
conservative?
And then there's a fairly sizable Jewish community that's not affiliated with the synagogue, but a lot of people come to my concerts, and I've gotten to know all kinds of people from my music.
So there's
and
a sizable unaffiliated
Yes.
population.
The summertime, it probably blossoms the Jewish community. I mean, people come up here, I know in the Capital District, it just booms, with
Yeah.
Jewish life, Jewish camps all over.
Well, you have a connection with Klezmer Glass Opera, which is not too far.
I have I play,
in
I'm principal
Cooperstown.
clarinet in the Klezmer Glass Opera. I've been playing in that orchestra for a pretty long time. And yeah, although the summer people in my area is more geared towards baseball camps now, so not so much
Music, yeah.
Jewish culture in the summers. But there's a wonderful Jewish community in Oneonta.
And what do you enjoy the most? Which holiday or what sort of cultural events do you enjoy the most?
I love Simchas Torah because I love being able to play and and have
dancing, all the
yeah,
love it.
love it. I love everything.
Okay.
I just try
It's
to-
interesting that, you're very variable because, tell us some of the pieces you're playing in the Klezmer Glass Opera, and Klezmer, of course, I'm more aware, but, the Jewish music, but that's interesting that you can switch off from one kind of totally different kind of music.
Yeah. Well, I was trained as a classical clarinetist, or in art music, if you want to call it that, symphonic music, and I learned clarinet from my father, who had started playing the clarinet as a teenager, really, and he played klezmer in the hotels in the Catskills, only they didn't call it klezmer then, they just called it playing Jewish.
Jewish music.
Yeah, just Jewish.
Where did the Klezmer then come up then?
From where?
It's a really interesting topic. The word klezmer originally meant the musician who played. In the old world, it comes from Klezmer, vessel of song. Klezmer, that they slurred it together, and actually it's a wonderful. It has a wonderful connotation because what they were saying in these old world Yiddish speaking cultures was that the musician was just the vessel through which the music came through. It's not about the player. And you know, every musician really strives for that, even whether you're conscious of it or not. You're just the conduit for the inspiration.
Can
really.
you give us a sample
of
klezmer, a little sample
Oh,
of
you mean
music?
playing?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, sure. Be happy to.
Explain the tune or something, what you're going to.
This is a very traditional klezmer tune. It's just called a freilach. Means
Okay.
joyous. A lot of the tunes don't have titles. They're just called freilachs or bulgars or what have you. And this is a freilach, a very traditional one.
I was ready to go
nice.
dancing with Mark over
Very
here.
nice.
We would start dancing around
Wow.
the table a little bit.
Now, you've gone all around from Greenwich Village to Utica to Binghamton Philharmonic. I mean, you've been all over New York State, but also the Santa Rosa Youth Orchestra. I presume that's in California,
Yep.
maybe? Okay.
Yeah. Well, these are all groups that I've played klezmer and orchestra
Right.
with. As
Sure.
a soloist, I play with a lot of orchestras. Just quote unquote legit music. Classical music, Glimmer Glass Opera, Binghamton Philharmonic, what have you. But in the last couple of years, I've really tried to promote symphonic klezmer, and so I've had a lot of pieces written for me, or that I've commissioned, or that I've had arranged, and so that I can play either as a soloist, which I've done with these orchestras, and also with my new klezmer group, which is a fabulous group called Big Galut, and we have a wonderful klezmer and orchestra program. It's kind of like a pops program, so we do some very showy klezmer music and some very soulful music and a little shtick and some Yiddish jokes.
Where do you perform? I mean, Oneonta is not the biggest Jewish area, so.
Right. Well, we're trying to promote the show. I mean, we actually just tried it out in Oneonta for the first time just a couple of weeks ago.
At SUNY Oneonta?
It was held at SUNY Oneonta. It was with the Catskill
And then
Symphony.
the other college is Hartwick College?
The other college is Hartwick,
Okay, and Hartwick is the sister college of what, Binghamton University?
No, it's just a,
Is Hartwick
it's just a
College
private
independent? I
college.
thought it was
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
what was your, and then you did Skidmore College locally?
I've
up
done
in
some
Skid-
master classes at Skidmore.
Yeah. So you are a master.
I've
Mistress? No, master? I don't know. What's the female for master?
But I
Is
love
it-
I love it. I love to share this music with
What's
audiences.
the
with
International
audiences.
Clarinet Association and the Guild of Temple Musicians?
The International Clarinet Association is basically a guild for clarinetists. There's I think
Like a networking thing? Or
yeah,
where you
basically
can get together
networking,
with
and they
other-
have a convention every year, and they have a magazine that comes out quarterly, I think. And the Guild of Temple Musicians, I'm not very involved with them, but I joined just because I felt it was something I wanted to do and sort of have access to their newsletters and things like that. They run a lot of camps and things like that, but I'm a member. Yeah,
That's
and I'm in the
great, yeah.
directory.
Oh, that's great. And I presume this gets you noticed within the industry, within
I
your
hope
trade.
So. Yeah.
So.
That's my hope.
Do you have a favorite klezmer tune that really?
Favorite klezmer tune? Well, one thing that I love about klezmer is the ability for it to just be incredibly, incredibly expressive. So I learned, I started to say before, I learned classical music from my father. He was my clarinet teacher. And then when I got into klezmer about maybe 10, 15 years ago, he was my teacher again. He was my klezmer teacher again. So he was a fantastic klezmer clarinetist. And
what was his name?
His name was Harold Seletsky. He was called the Prez of Klez. And he really was something special. So this is something that he didn't teach me exactly, but this is something that he used to do, and I've sort of adapted it to my own thing. It's called a doina, and a doina has a lot of, it comes from a lot of different sources. The old Brooklyn way of saying it was derna, so my father always said, play a derna. So this is a derna.
Okay.
You got a good audience there.
Beautiful. Wow.
Not your biggest, but we're a good
I
audience.
could tell how into it. You were like the clarinet and you were one in the same. It was like so incredible. It was like, wow.
You know, that's interesting because my sister plays a lot more piano, and I have to tell the audience, I was first French horn in my high school.
I heard about that.
Yeah, all right. So maybe I'm famous. But, you know, and I once asked her, and it's interesting, Mark brought that up now. I says, you know, what's the difference between, you know, like even a high school player, they play the notes perfectly. You know, they're practicing. What's the difference between a professional? He says, a professional is like exactly what Mark says. And surely they play the notes. It's, you know, obviously it's hard work to play the notes, but a lot of people can play the notes, but it's just a feeling. It's like you say, you won with the instrument. You could feel the music when you're a professional. You're not just playing correctly, you know. Surely everybody plays correctly.
Yeah.
No one misses a note in the middle, but there you could really feel and see that. It's important.
And I noticed with the big galoot that you play a variety of Jewish musical styles, including Yiddish, Sephardic, and Middle Eastern Levantine. What is all that? I don't understand what I just read.
The stuff I played so far is pretty much from the Ashkenazic tradition, you know, from the countries of Eastern Europe, and you know, the inflections are very typical of the Ashkenazic tradition.
It sounded something like fiddler almost in some of the tunes that you
and it's it's also, the doina that I just played also really draws a lot from the cantorial style. You know, the modes are the same, the inflections are the same. but it's sort of an instrumental take on it. But there's a lot of Jewish music from across the diaspora, and we try to tap into a little of it here and there where we can. Although obviously, our strength is really with the Ashkenazic, with the Yiddish. But one of the reasons why we've been exploring these different styles of Jewish music outside of the Eastern European is because our name, Big Galut means diaspora in Hebrew, and but we also have a player, our guitar player, is a specialist in Baroque lute playing.
Oh.
So he brings the Baroque lute and the Baroque guitar to our group. So it's sort of a play on words.
That's
there.
wonderful.
It's
yeah.
interesting in your history as a klezmer, again, even with Yiddish, the Jewish language, you always pick up, it's not like just pure Jewish, because if they're in Romania, they pick up a few Romanian
Right,
words,
exactly.
Russian words. So you see that, like you say, cantoral music, a little Jewish music, but a little bit European, Eastern European music.
Totally. I mean, the trajectory of the klezmer styles totally follows the trajectory of the Yiddish language. I mean, because the klezmorim, the musicians, were itinerant musicians. They would have to travel to play primarily weddings. This was primarily wedding music, but they would have to travel. Just like Oneonta, I can't
Right.
really make a living just staying in Oneonta. So, and so they picked up different styles. They played a lot with the gypsies. We would say no Roma people, but they played a lot with the gypsies. And Yiddish, wherever there were Yiddish speakers, they picked up the language from the different places, and the musicians picked up the musical styles from the different places.
Do you have something that's Sephardic that you could share with us? Or?
Let's see. Yeah, okay.
Very nice. So why would, for the untrained ear, why would that be different from Ashkenazi? What were the notes? What was musically, why is it two different?
Yeah, it uses different modes. I mean, the Ashkenaz, and also different inflections. I mean, I'm not a Sephardic music specialist. There are Sephardic music specialists.
But
I'm much more of an
Ashkenaz
Ashkenazi.
is it more upbeat? And this
Not
is Sephardic's more
necessarily.
somber? Or?
Not necessarily. The klezmer, our Ashkenazic music, is uses a lot of that mode. It also uses particular kinds of inflections. The inflection called the krecht. Krecht in Yiddish means, I think literally it means like a groan or a sob. Right. But in music, it's, if I were to play a phrase, let's say like a classical player, but if I had the krecht, so it's kind of like choking off that middle note, and like, it's that feeling that you bring to it. Also, there's a wonderful klezmer inflection, which clarinetists do primarily. And it's not meant to be gimmicky, or silly. It's really meant to just in the service of the expressiveness of the
It's
music.
interesting. Once you say that, I know, I never noticed it or picked on it, but it's a good question mark then, just to bring out this. But it's an expression, like you say, music is an expression. It's a Hasidic idea where music is an expression of the soul.
Right.
Because music is very high. I mean, speech, of course, can affect people with good words or bad words, God forbid. But, music also kind of expresses yourself even in a higher level,
Right.
because Hasidic music is also a
Right.
very important, integral part of
I know.
the Hasidic life.
I know, I know.
As a nigun.
My understanding of the nigunim is that they don't have words, so that, or most of them don't have words, so that the words would keep you earthbound, and that's why they're
Yeah.
chants without the
Just so
words.
high, very high.
Yeah.
Now, was Benny Goodman a clarinetist?
Benny Goodman was a clarinetist.
Okay, and do you take anything from what he did? Or?
Sometimes I do on some of my programs, The Angels Sing. He obviously, he was Jewish, obviously,
Right.
and he drew on, primarily blues and, and
Right.
early jazz. But there was a little bit of a klezmer thing to him. I'll play just a little. But this
Okay.
was one of his big hits. It was actually a Jewish tune called Der Stiller Bulgar, the
Right.
Quiet Bulgar.
Right.
And then it became a big swing hit. From there. My father did an arrangement, and I've sort of copied it, where he starts with this sort of swing style, and then goes into the klezmer beat of the same tune. So it's the same tune, but with a different rhythm, different inflections. And yeah, we have a lot of fun doing that one.
That's wonderful. And what's your favorite classical piece?
That's
And who
hard.
was your favorite classical
That's
composer?
hard. That's hard to say.
I like Shostakovich.
I love Shostakovich.
Yeah.
I love Brahms.
You
I
can do
love
solos in
Brahms.
classic. I mean, even though, like I say, I played French horn, but usually it's always the violinist or the pianist or the violinist that do classic. I mean, I know this is part of the orchestra. I'm
Yeah.
not saying, but just to be the major
Oh,
soloist.
The featured solos. Yeah, well, Mozart wrote a very wonderful clarinet concerto. Weber wrote some clarinet concerto. But yeah, with symphony orchestras, you're more likely to hear piano or violin.
Yeah. Is it too much to put you on the spot to ask you?
Yeah,
no?
it's not my setup for. I have a different setup for klezmer than for classical.
Okay,
Classical,
not a
I have a nice round
Not a
tone without
problem.
vibrato and a hard reed.
And what's this Middle Eastern Levantine? What is that all about?
Well, that's just trying to tap into some of the rhythms and some of the.
Is that more
tunes.
Moroccan or?
Yeah,
Not really.
Moroccan or Turkish.
Turkish,
Yeah,
yeah.
and actually, with Big Galut, we just made a new recording. It hasn't been released yet, and
Ooh.
you can check out some of those tunes on the recording.
Oh, yeah?
it should be great.
Uh-huh. You want to give us a little sample?
It's better with the full group because you hear the percussion and you really get the full effect.
all right.
There are a
And
lot of
the, wait a minute, the
yeah.
website is biggalut.com or what? What's the
Biggalut.com with two G's,
BIGGALUTE.com.
.com. There's also robinseletsky.com.
Right.
And where I have some of my own solo things. And yeah.
Okay.
But I was just saying, there's a lot of klezmer groups, and it's been growing, in the last, 10, 20 years, that just people just like it. I mean, it's growing, this kind of music.
I
mean,
know.
It's like getting,
There's a big revival of
Yeah.
it. And what happened was it pretty much died out because
Klezmer
of,
music. you're
Yeah.
saying.
My father played klezmer. It was like in the 40s and the 50s, and it was a carryover from when the immigrants came and brought their music and played on 2nd Avenue in the Yiddish Theater.
Right.
And then by the mid-60s, there was a feeling like, oh, that was my parents'
Yeah.
I want rock and roll. I don't want that, my bar mitzvah kind of. So really it became almost cliche, and then it finally just stopped altogether. And then the revival started about 20 years ago, and it was really an attempt for people like my age to discover this music that is incredibly wonderful. And so there's Klez Camp, it's like a Yiddish folk arts festival. There's all kinds
And
of...
where is that?
That's held in...
Not New York State, is it?
yeah, it's held in... Well, it used to be held in near Liberty, and I
Okay.
think they've moved
It's
it
Sullivan
to
County
Parksville.
then?
It used to be
Yeah.
Parksville. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's in the Northeast, yeah.
And what is what's your feeling when you're in Greenwich Village as opposed to Cooperstown at the Glimmer Glass Opera? Because, you know, I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I've been to the small village hall, you know, the
Yeah.
places, you know, you can fit 20 people, but
Right.
it's so much of an inspirational type of place in the village.
Yeah.
So what do you get, the
That's
difference? What do you
That's
get
a
out
really
of it?
good question. I have been amazed at how people respond to music, all kinds of music. And it's as if, I think people really, really want to feel inspired. And so they can feel inspired anywhere and by anything if it's, you know, if the music has some degree of authenticity. And klezmer, I love because it's so dramatic, you know, and it's so immediate, and you can see people smiling in the audience. But opera is wonderful too, you know. A few years ago we did Tosca, the opera Tosca, which is magnificent. It has this wonderful clarinet solo in the last act. And, you know, the protocol is very different. People can't jump up, and they can't dance, and they can't clap, you know. But they respond nevertheless. And so I think it's all about connecting with people. You know, I read somewhere, and I really think this is true, that the word concert does not mean a performer on a stage and people sitting there and applauding, or even whatever. It means that the audience and the performer, they are in concert with each other. The performer is in concert with the audience.
And that's what you get in Greenwich Village when you perform, more so than any other place that you perform.
Well, you don't notice it as much, but you can feel the energy. You can feel the energy at a classical performance.
Right,
You know, you can feel when the audience is kind of tuned out, and you can feel when they're really with. They can't, you know, they can't stand up and applaud, but until the very end. I mean, there's all these rituals around it. But no, you can definitely feel electricity in the air.
You know, Tanglewood has a.
I've been there, yeah. I participated in the
you
festival.
played there, yeah,
yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So let me know when you go back and you play again. I'll
We'll
come
stand
out.
up over here.
Come out to see you. No, it really is something else.
I know.
I think you are such a talent.
Oh, thank you.
And the Northern Catskills are very blessed to have you as a resident and performer, and I'm just so thrilled that you made the trip here. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.
You know.
Robin, very good, Dad. Always give a little blessing to you that the music is like the soul, and lift up the people's soul and the Jewish soul with your Jewish music and your regular music. It should only continue to make people happy with good health.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.